So as we start our day, I want to introduce the gentleman who has taken this to the level that it needed to be and who is continuing to lead the motley crew. The co-chairs of the Monterey Bay Economic Partnership are Renee Mendez, City Manager of Gonzales, and Mr. Bud Colligan. Bud is truly a community builder. He has worked diligently for the last 2 years to make this happen. When he first heard that we wanted to do something regionally, he said, great idea, let's do it. And he said, but you need to do it this way, you need to include more Santa Cruz, you need to make it more regional, you need to include this, do that, blah, blah, blah. And I said, he told me I could say whatever I wanted when I introduced him. Big mistake. But you know, the important thing is that we have somebody who has a vision, who has the drive, and who will make it happen. And that's really what this region needed. Someone you all respected, that you knew could get it done, and that you will rally behind. And we are so fortunate. We've got someone who's had CEO experience. He's a creative maniac, and he is a perfectionist. And so for this region, we could not be prouder than to have Mr. Bud Colligan. Thank you.
Am I on? Yeah? Yeah? I'm on, okay. Good. Well, you're going to have to listen to my blah, blah, blah for about a half an hour. Well, good morning, and thank you all for being here. I think it's terrific that we were able to assemble such a group here, particularly those of you who came from Monterey and San Benito counties. I know it's a long drive, and you have to brave our Highway 1 traffic, so a special welcome to Santa Cruz. We want today's conference to be the start of a dialogue to approach important regional issues in a new way. We have some key quality of life issues that have resisted easy and quick solutions. But many of us sense that we're in the middle of a sea change. There is an opening throughout the region to tackle these issues in new, creative ways. And many multidisciplinary, multi-agency, and public-private partnerships are in motion. Bright Futures in Monterey County, Santa Cruz County College Commitment, 4 Cities for Peace in Salinas, and in the healthcare area, Healthy Kids, First 5, and the Central Coast Alliance for Health. So as we interact today, consider how things might be different if we collaborate for collective impact. I got involved in regional economic development a few years ago when unemployment rates were so high, particularly in South Santa Cruz County and South Monterey County. And it was really disturbing to me. And I wondered how I could help to create opportunities for a more equitable and thriving region. And over the last several years, I've collaborated with others to bring microlending to mainstream businesses through Opportunity Fund in cooperation with the Community Foundation in Santa Cruz, the Community Foundation in Monterey, and the Packard Foundation. And along with hundreds of community members, we supported Jacob Martinez and his team in the creation and growth of Digital Nest in Watsonville, and are now looking at how we can open up a site in Salinas. And I worked with Bob Cagle, UCSC, Cabrillo College, the City of Santa Cruz, and local tech companies to start Santa Cruz Works as a hub for our tech industry, higher wage jobs, and keeping our brain trust local. I felt we also needed a group to spearhead issues related to economic development, the environment, and equity in our region. So a group of us teamed up to form the Monterey Bay Economic Partnership, affectionately known as MBEP. I know it's not the best acronym, but bear with us. And I'd like to give you a quick update. We kicked off our organization in January of this year with the first MBEP Economic Summit in Seaside. And since then, we built a board of directors, Marianne said, of 16 regional leaders, made available on our website an enormous amount of regional data to inform effective economic and quality of life decisions. And we established 2 MBEP initiatives in April at our first board meeting, building the regional tech ecosystem and workforce development. And I'm happy to say we were accepted into the California Stewardship Network as one of 13 regional economic development organizations in the state. And most recently, we've hired Kate Roberts as our new president. She's making a huge difference already, and please join me in welcoming her. The strength of MBEP is our terrific members from business, education, civic, and nonprofit communities. We've added 37 members in the last 10 months, and I want to thank all of our members for their belief in MBEP's mission and confidence in backing a new organization dedicated to a thriving region. So if you like what you see today, if you like what you hear about MBEP, I hope you'll join us. We're leaning in today on 6 essential issues: housing, infrastructure, youth health and well-being, the environment, public safety, and workforce development. People ask me about education, and I say, education runs through every one of these essential issues. It's not far from any of them. And we're interested in maximizing collective impact to attain a term that we're calling regional thrive. You'll hear more about that today. And to do that, our intention and our invitation is for government, private sector, and nonprofit groups to think and act differently by considering a problem together, then setting some goals and innovating our way to achieving them. As I outline our day today, I'd like you to be thinking about a couple things. First, notice some of you have a red dot on your badge. Good look. I'm not going to tell you what it's about, but we're going to come back to that later. It's a little suspense to keep you interested. And second, I know that every person in this room is already working on these issues. But as you listen and participate today, consider what new regional connections you might make. We have the capacity to share best practices in our region. We don't have to reinvent everything in every county. Consolidate our efforts and use our regional resources more effectively. So what new tri-county connections can you make today? And who will you collaborate with? Let's jump in and look at our state of the region. And we'll start with demographics and the economy. We all live in a wonderfully diverse community with demographics that look mostly like California as a whole. Underneath these numbers are the mountains and rich farmland opening up to the magnificent Monterey Marine Sanctuary, the small towns and dynamic urban areas, culturally diverse population that provides abundant arts, language, food, and recreation opportunities for all of us. A slow but steady economic expansion has resulted in 5 to 5.8% county unemployment rates, which has led to more people working and city and county coffers rebounding from the economically challenging years of 2009 to 2013. The overall drop in unemployment in 2015 in particular has been quite dramatic. These latest numbers are for September. Even in cities with the highest unemployment, like Watsonville, Hollister, and Salinas, there have been a sharp drop, particularly from 2013 on. Thankfully, this trend gives us an opportunity to breathe a bit and to collaborate on a collective regional strategy that addresses low wages, astronomically high and rising housing costs, challenges in education and training for current and future jobs, and what have been seemingly intractable public safety issues. We plan on focusing more on jobs and economic development at our Winter Economic Summit. Today is about the other factors that affect the quality of life in the Monterey Bay region, but I think it's a good backdrop to start with because it kind of affects everything else. Let's talk first about housing. One of the biggest challenges we face, as you all know, is affordable housing. In 2014, the median price of US housing was $195,000, but was $385,000 in Salinas and $631,000 in Santa Cruz. That was 2014. All the numbers are higher today. Just yesterday in the Sentinel, it said that the median price in Santa Cruz is now $750,000. So we have to ask ourselves a simple question. Do we want to live in a diverse community where teachers, firefighters, hospitality workers, police officers, artists, nurses, caregivers, and farm workers can afford to rent and buy homes in the communities they serve? Those who teach our children, keep us safe, harvest our food, take care of us when we're sick and aged, artists who provide beauty and perspective, deserve to live in our communities. In our hearts and minds, we all delight in diversity, not sameness. But homogeneity is where we're trending when housing is unaffordable for much of our community. And with low and stagnant wages for many people, housing has become unaffordable for most, young and old, and especially for families. Only 21 to 23% of families in our region can afford a median price home. Casey Beyer and the Housing Panel are going to dig into the causes and potential remedies for increasing the supply of affordable housing. Our intention with each panel today is to honestly identify the challenges and then surface ideas from the panel and from all of you. We have an amazing group of people assembled here to form a roadmap to collaborative solutions. And at the end of each panel, Irene Suprake will summarize the discussion and potential for collective action. This is a quick tour of our region. Let's look at infrastructure issues. We all agree that we want a diverse, resilient, sustainable economy, right? Yes. Okay. So if we want hospitals to be able to move large image files around and take advantage of cost-effective, even remote medical diagnostics, if we want schools to have state-of-the-art multimedia and access to the best video learning around the world, if we want government to be open, transparent, and efficient, if we want businesses to be able to leverage the best minds in marine science and agriculture and genomics and technology, creating and designing products and services in our region, then the most important infrastructure for the future is fast, reliable, low-cost internet availability. The Sunesis backbone, a 91-mile fiber optic network from Santa Cruz to Soledad, gives us the potential for a low-cost fiber internet connection throughout the region, including some 68 unserved and over 1,000 underserved census blocks along the corridor of the backbone. These communities will finally have the infrastructure for high-speed and affordable broadband access. The backbone is planned to be completed in the spring of 2017. It will connect to the major fiber routes up and down Highway 1, Interstate 5, and Interstate 80. And it will connect to local ISPs and city networks being built. Efforts by Santa Cruz, Salinas, and Watsonville will build off the Sunesis backbone. We'll need a concerted effort to ensure all the cities and counties in our region pass a dig once policy for all public works projects to optimize excavation whenever possible. The dig once ordinance, already passed by the County of Santa Cruz under Zach Friend's leadership, provides an example for others in the region. MBEP is now working with city managers and public works departments to make sure that specifications for conduit fiber made by the Central Coast Broadband Coalition are adopted in every municipality and county. You've heard the expression, let 1,000 flowers bloom. As you can see from the orange lines, AT, Verizon, Comcast, and Charter provide the lion's share of internet connectivity in our region. And we expect them to continue to have a huge role going forward. But it is in our public interest to have a level playing field with robust competition. The Sunesis backbone and further collaborative municipal efforts will make the entire region more competitive, which is good for consumers, businesses, educational institutions, and nonprofits. I'll let you look at that slide for a minute. Another critical infrastructure area that needs attention is our roads and bridges. How many people took public transit or biked here today? I know the last hill was a little daunting. One. Yeah. Well, like it or not, we are still a car-centric region, state, and nation. About 80% of us get to work in a car. And the next highest percentage of 9% works from home. Santa Cruz County has made impressive gains in bike transit, as you can see from the other category. And there are more possibilities for commuting with a robust Monterey Bay Sanctuary Scenic Trail that runs from Davenport to Pacific Grove. But we need new, cost-effective, and high-impact ideas on transportation infrastructure, like rapid transit buses on highway shoulders to take advantage of Mark Stone's AB 946 legislation. It won't work everywhere in the county, but it will work in some areas in the county, in the Tri-County area. Digitization of buses with GPS, apps, and LED displays at bus stations to improve predictability of commute times. They exist in many cities around the country. Dedicated lanes during rush hour on highly trafficked roads. Expanding bike paths throughout the region. These lower cost projects could have collective impact. There's also a revolution going on in electric cars, self-driving vehicles, and transportation as a service. These are not pipe dreams, and they are certainly doable in timeframes shorter than some of the large, costly, decades-long projects being considered. When it comes to water, in spite of the drought, I think there's actually lots of positive news. Santa Cruz's Water Supply Advisory Committee just reached consensus regarding an aquifer-based storage strategy. Congratulations for those in the room who are on the committee. Several plans are moving forward for desal in Monterey County after many long delays. And though there are many different views on the best way to tackle our water shortage, as we all know, regionally, we have done a very good job of conserving water. But the truth is, we're going to have to work even harder to develop multiple strategies to deal with this historic drought. Lenny Mendonça is going to share some emergent thoughts on innovative infrastructure collaborations and citizen leadership in his talk this morning. The health and well-being of children is an indicator of the health and well-being of any region. Our youth must thrive in order for our region to thrive. And there's some really big news. It's astonishing but true. We are approaching universal health care for youth through the efforts of our counties and the passage of the Affordable Care Act. I think that's worth a round of applause. We've had big gains from 2013 to 2014, as you can see here, and even more in 2015 in talking to local health officials. And there's more good news regarding our youth. High school dropout rates are falling. Teen pregnancy rates are falling. And alcohol, tobacco, and substance abuse among teens is also falling. So the kids are all right, right? I take from your murmur, not so fast. As we're going to see over and over again throughout the day, the issues we're discussing are inevitably interrelated. So even though unemployment is dropping, other factors are worsening, including stagnant wages, escalating housing and transportation costs, and an increase in food insecurity. We have more and more people in our community receiving food aid. Monterey County has 430,000 residents, but 94,000 are receiving food aid. And with a population of 275,000, Santa Cruz has 56,000 receiving food aid. That's over a fifth of our community. But here's the real irony. Though food insecurity is on the rise in the region, paradoxically, so is youth obesity, with the exception of Monterey County. Ray Bullock's here. Congratulations. But the absolute rates across all three counties are alarming. We're seeing rising obesity rates across the population in general, but it is particularly alarming in youth. Hispanics, Native Americans, Pacific Islanders, and youth ages 9 to 11 are disproportionately affected by obesity. Racial and ethnic, socioeconomic, and geographic disparities in obesity rates persist. And the rates of obesity are highest among those with very low incomes and lowest among higher income Californians. And here's another sobering trend. 55 to 69% of our youth are receiving free or low-cost meals at school. You heard that right, 69%. We know that a child's well-being is related to health care, where actually our story is improving a lot. But clearly, other deeply interrelated issues include early childhood care and education, nutrition, movement, enriching activities, family well-being, and support resources. Alan McKay and our youth health panel will consider these issues later this morning. Let's turn to the environment. MBEP board member Gary Griggs will end our morning by sharing his views on how a clean environment leads to a healthy community. So if we protect our lands, we protect our communities. And fortunately, you can see that we're doing a good job protecting our land for future generations. Efforts by our local, state, and federal governments, concerned citizens, and organizations like the Sempervirens Fund, the Land Trust, the Nature Conservancy are really paying off and have paid off for the last 30 years. We're also protecting our farmland, even expanding it in Monterey County. And our farmers in all 3 counties are being incredibly efficient, creating higher production value with less water on approximately the same acreage. And they have been really innovative. We have Dick Pichot here this morning, who's the CEO of Lakeside Organics, and I had the opportunity to spend a day with him on Focus Ag a year ago. He's doing some incredible stuff. We've created a whole new industry around packaged fresh lettuce and vegetables, particularly in Monterey County, and built a worldwide berry industry with companies like Driscoll's. And we're starting to press our advantage in organics as well, with several of the statewide and national organizations like the CCOF in Santa Cruz leading the way. The Northern California buyer of produce for Costco recently told me that more than 27% of their fresh produce sales are now organic. It's not all good news. We're still applying too much pesticide without understanding its downstream effects on the environment. We're using too much of the aquifer water banked over the last 10,000 years without understanding its true level of sustainability. Our oceans are mostly clean, but we continue to have beach advisories every month. Our air is clean too, but we can't be complacent. We want to ensure we leave a thriving environment for generations to come. After lunch, we'll hear from Lieutenant Governor Gavin Newsom about the state of our state, and then we'll have our panel on public safety. Where the macro crime stats are going in the right direction in all the counties and statewide, despite what we may hear on the nightly news. This is generally true in an improving economy, but good news nonetheless, particularly since crime rates were mostly falling during the Great Recession that we just experienced. And despite the fact that these stats show gang-related cases and arrests declining from 2013 to 2014 in Santa Cruz County, we still have a major problem in the region with gang violence, as witnessed by the homicide level in Salinas. Education factors, lack of jobs, food insecurity, and lack of constructive outdoor and after-school activities all contribute to this picture. It's not just a law enforcement issue. As an example, you can see from this chart that the number of youth employed has been declining. We all had those starter jobs in middle school and high school, and kids still need them today. MBEP board member Rene Mendez and his panel will be discussing programs and public safety efforts underway today and where we go from here. And finally, let's talk about our workforce. It's good to start with where the jobs are. You can see that employment in Santa Cruz County is quite diversified, also in San Benito County. Monterey County is very agriculturally oriented, as we all know, with a $6 billion plus ag industry making up almost a third of the economy. Santa Cruz is very strong in health and education, and both counties have strong tourism sectors. We have some fundamental challenges with our workforce. Let's start with a mismatch between employer needs and local skills. According to a recent report by the National Resource Network, almost 30% of adult residents over 25 in the Salinas Valley ended their formal education in elementary and middle school. And according to local education leaders interviewed for the same report, over 85% of high school grads in the same area are not college ready in math and English. Low levels of educational achievement make it difficult for residents to compete for the better paid, higher skilled jobs where there is unmet and ongoing demand. Positions in machinery operation and repair, supply chain management, sales, logistics, engineering, and computer programming. Other workforce challenges include high levels of poverty, which inhibit education and movement to higher wage jobs. The United Way of California developed a measure in 2015 called the Real Cost Measure, which, unlike the federal poverty level, which was created 47 years ago and basically is based on food costs, the Real Cost Measure includes necessities like housing, transportation, childcare, and healthcare in addition to food. Nothing fancy, just the basics. And about 30% of families in our region, not just Monterey County, Santa Cruz County, San Benito County, in our tri-county area, fell below the basic level of the Real Cost Measure. So I'm coming back to the red dot. We put a red dot randomly on a third of the name tags. Take a look now at yours. Could you please stand if you have a dot? Okay, just look around. It's a lot. It's a lot of our room. Okay, you may be seated. If you were standing, you've got to be able to pay for a family of 4 with both parents working, including food, housing, childcare, healthcare, and transportation, the basics, with $36,000 of salary and government aid. You know the real costs are between $50,000 to $60,000, depending on where you live in our region. So how would you do it? How would you close the gap? Other workforce issues. We have an exodus of skilled professionals to higher paying jobs in Silicon Valley, particularly in Santa Cruz, where they can get there easily. And that leaves a lot of middle management jobs open. We're forced to recruit from outside the area, and of course, the high cost of living makes it difficult to attract and retain qualified employees. MBEP board member Marianne Leffel and our workforce panel of leaders in agriculture, healthcare, education, and technology will discuss these challenges in our last panel. And lest you think we're all work and no play, don't forget about the beer at the end of the conference. That's your incentive to hang in there. So that's what we're going to talk about today. We want today's discussion to be different. We believe that a model is emerging, a model that relies on partnerships between public and private sectors and leverages the centers of excellence and collective understanding wherever they may be. A model that recognizes the deep disparities of education, wages, healthcare, and overall opportunity, and deals with them head-on and in a constructive and open way. We'll be using this hashtag on Twitter and Facebook throughout the day. I know you guys are all going to be tweeting, to elicit questions and comments and have a broad-ranging dialogue. There will also be audience Q&A. We want everyone involved the last 15 minutes of every session. And we encourage you to interact at the breaks and over lunch with all the talent and expertise that's assembled in this room. We know one conference doesn't change a region. But the journey of 1,000 miles starts with one step. We're leveraging many efforts like Bright Futures and Healthy Kids and others. and we'll convene every year to gauge our progress. There are 3 MBEP cards in your program. You can affix your business card to it. You can write something on it. Exchange a card with someone who has a great idea and with whom you want to connect. So how is the state of our region? It's quite good for some, but too many of us are not thriving. And it could be a whole lot better for all of us if we find new ways to tackle challenges that have been around a long time and continue to resist our collective will to solve them. For all of our well-intentioned efforts, many of these statistics are clearly unacceptable to any of us. So who in this room will you connect with? How will you collaborate differently? And what will that collaboration look like? When children have food and access to education and enriching activities, when there are sustainable living wage jobs, and we all have a voice in our communities, when the diversity in all cultures is nurtured and respected, when there is civic pride in the places we live, people have hope. We have hope. And we are invested in our communities for the long term. That's how we get to regional thrive. Together. Thank you.